Welcome to the podcast that buffs your Hearthstone game. This is Velen's Chosen.
Not all who wander are lost.
Greetings, visionaries, and welcome to Velen's Chosen. Whether you're a competitive player, an arena specialist, a deck-building visionary, or you just like having a bit of fun like the rest of us, we can help you buff your game and achieve your Hearthstone goals. I'm Grant Gould, and joining me from across the North American continent, back from the infirmary, is my favorite Canadian and yours, Eve Martin. How you doing, Eve?
I'm good. It seems like such a long time ago, honestly. I called in sick to work as well. And like the next time I went into work, they're like, so how are you feeling? And in my head, that was such a long time ago that I had no idea what they were talking about to begin with. Like, I'm fine. Oh, yeah, I called in sick like 2 days ago. But sometimes you have days that are kind of so full that, yeah, it just, I'm good. I'm fine. And keeping busy.
So when you get that ill, like, what do? Do you just kind of like, all right, world shut out, I'm going to lay in bed until I'm good? Or are you one of those people that just tries to like function as high as high level functioning as you
I
can?
lay down and die. That's what I do. I'm not one of those people who like, I'll go to work and work it through. I'm one of those people who's like, yeah, and then I'll get everyone else at work sick. And then I'll be sick for longer because I didn't rest. And I'll drag it out to be a week-long sick instead of like maybe a 24-hour sick. Like, no, I am one of those people who's like, I'm going to come home and lay down in bed and have a hot tea and go to sleep. Thankfully, I can actually do that because my youngest child is 10 years old. So they're pretty self-sufficient at this point. Like, they can make themselves a peanut butter and jam sandwich or a bowl of cereal if they get hungry.
So they're not beating down the door and forcing you to be mom, right?
No, they're pretty good at being, okay, mom's sick and she's grumpy, so we're going to avoid her and try
It's
not
in
to
their
bother
best
her.
Self-preservation interests.
Exactly.
Just leave you alone.
If we ask her for anything, she'll probably say no because she's grumpy, so we'll just give her space.
Yeah, that is not my family right now. If they want mom, they want mom, and there's nothing I can do to stop that. I practically have to throw myself and close the door, lock it, and throw myself in front of it and sit there to keep them out, even if Eva feels like garbage. So
I get that, though. I went through that stage where especially my daughter was just like, no, I don't care. It's not even dad. I don't even want dad. I just want mom, and I'm not going to be happy unless I have mom. That's it.
Yep.
And I mean, as a mom, I got to tell you, it does kind of feel good that you're irreplaceable.
Irreplaceable is the right word. Nobody can be you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not a bad thing.
I mean, I suppose it's true for dads, but it feels like in terms of the child trajectory of life, like dad fills in that role sometimes more than mom, and mom fills that role. But the first, I'm going to say 10 years probably, or thereabouts, like mama is the be all end all.
Yeah, for us, it was like, whenever dad wanted to do something, it was like, oh my gosh, dad wants to do something, drop everything and go. No matter what we were doing, do you want to come to the store? Yes, we do. Because we just like were starved for attention from our father. But with mom, it was like, she was there 24/7. We just took it for granted that, hello, welcome to the Hearthstone podcast.
Hey. The listeners have said they don't mind us talking about family stuff, and
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Let's get back on track. I wanted to hear about, you were talking about somebody, was it at school, wanted to know whether you were playing a certain game?
Oh, I was we went to camp this past weekend. My oldest daughter and I was a chaperone, and on the way back, one of the camp moms was sitting behind me, and I think she saw me playing Hearthstone. And it was kind of like, okay, this person's acceptable to ask if they play video games, apparently. She says, oh, hey, is that Brawl Stars? I don't know if she was looking very carefully. And I said, no, it's it's not. And she goes, have you ever played it? And I'm like, well, I've seen some of my students play. And she's like, well, do you want to? You want to play a game? And I'm like, sure, okay, it sounds great. And I'm sitting there going, this is
She knew it wasn't Brawl
a
Stars. She just needed
woman,
an opener, Grant.
right? She needed of course I know. I mean, I think it was just a lead
She's
in
like,
point.
how am I going to lead into this? Getting him to play Brawl Stars with me.
But
Okay.
I was kind of surprised because I get this is going to sound just kind of ignorant of me, but I guess in my own thinking, I just didn't peg her as a person that played any video games. I mean, it just I guess I'm ignorant, but like I just didn't think that moms of 4 children just had time to play cell phone games. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was just like, I'm gonna see how much she knows. So I was just like, okay, how do I play? And she was just like all up in it. Like she was like, you do this and you do that and watch out for this. And she was talking about how to play just to a meta without using the terminology. It was fascinating.
So
She-
trying
she
to
was-
use like dumbed down language so she could explain to you without using all the tech words. Wow,
it was super fascinating because she was basically saying the same thing that every gamer says, but she was using it in the most generic terms that you can use to describe it. And I was like, oh, so this is the meta. And she looked at me. She goes, what do you mean meta? And I explained it. And she goes, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I said, that's what younger teenager gamers use. And I'm sitting there thinking that's not entirely true, but I'm just going to say it anyways.
I feel like maybe if she doesn't play with a lot of people, then she hasn't been exposed to terminology that's common between gamers. So if she plays a lot of solo, then she's not a part of like the overarching conversation. But she's
Right.
used to trying to get people to play it. So she's got this like her own terminology of I can explain this without making it too complicated.
Well, and like in Brawl Stars, each character has a super move, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh yeah, use your ult." And she's like, "Your ult? What do you mean?" I said, "Well, your special move." And she goes, "Oh, okay." It's like, "What do you ult stands for? What?" I'm like, "Your ultimate power." And she's like, "Oh, okay."
Because that's from Overwatch.
yeah, use your ult. Use your ult in any game that has that sort of thing. I think that even comes from like Capcom, like
Ult?
Street Fighter. Your ultimate.
Yeah,
I've
in
heard
Destiny we call it your super.
your super, right?
Yeah.
So it was cool. I mean, it was actually really nice because she was able to explain like the game economy to me really easily and understand and quickly. So I didn't have to sit there and figure it out and go, "What's this?" And then I showed her how to read a meta report. So I went on. I'm like, "Here, let me check something for a minute." I went online and I found like a Brawl Stars meta report and explained S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier to her. And she goes, "Oh, that makes perfect sense. Oh, yeah, that's totally true." And it was kind of fun. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what any game that has like competitive, composition kind of stuff going on
Yeah.
is what you do. So it was cool because we were like kind of teaching each other the same things, but like from different points of view. But it was really neat. It was kind of just an interesting experience that I wasn't ready for, but was glad it happened.
Yeah, and I'm almost on the other end of the spectrum where when I was younger, I assumed that all men played video games. Like I wouldn't really talk to my girlfriends a bunch about it, but I'd start talking to like random guy I just met and they'd be like, "What are you even talking about?" And I'm like, "Oh, you don't play video games?"
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to profile you.
Never mind. I thought like that's a thing all guys did and I could just start a conversation and you'd know what I was talking about. But yeah,
Well-
I was actually like encouraged by learning about the amount of middle-aged women that play video games. Because I thought I was kind of a black sheep, I guess, of like an oddity. And then I found out, no, actually, the reasons that I started playing video games, having a lot of free time on my hands, is the reason a lot of middle-aged housewife women play video games. Because yeah, you have kids, but then you have times when they're down for a nap or you've got the stuff done you need to do for the day, or you don't and you just need a break.
Something non-focused
And
or
you,
fun-focused.
video games really fit the niche because you can't always leave the house. Like there might be responsibilities. You have to watch the kids. Even if they're sleeping, you still have to be there and you can't leave. And you sort of want the social part of it with the matchmaking and different people you're playing with, the guilds, the clans, different things like that. You can have like a social aspect. And depending on what you're looking for, you can have like a quick something to play and have fun with, and then you can get out really fast if you have to suddenly jump up because the baby started crying. So yeah, it turns out that it wasn't just me. There's a lot of women that find it really a good thing to make your day a little more exciting that isn't just like passively sitting in front of the TV. Because I don't watch a lot of TV because it's very just sit there and watch. And gaming being more interactive is like, it kind of makes you feel like you accomplished something, even if it's a lie.
Right. Well,
It's like, I did something today.
In terms of like the social thing, isn't it kind of cool to be like chosen by somebody invites you to a game? You know, like you're kind of minding your own business, or you're just playing the game and says, "Hey, come and join our group," and you're like, "They chose me. I feel special. They must think I'm okay at this."
Yeah.
You know, even if maybe they're not the greatest players in the world, there's just something about like, wow, somebody actually thinks I'm worthy to be on their team, as you know, as bad of a rap as video games get for just being cesspools of scum and villainy, you know. So
Yeah, that, like I admire her because that I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. Even if I saw somebody literally playing Hearthstone on their phone in front of me, I don't know if I would talk about it with a stranger.
yeah, well, we're not total strangers. Our girls are friends.
Okay. Yeah,
But
that makes it a bit
but
easier.
I don't. You know how that goes when kids are friends with each other, and they get to be good friends before the parents kind of get to know each other.
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those situations. Like I'd like to know you better. I just haven't had occasion to sit down and chat and stuff like that. So it was cool. But it was for me, from the male point of view, when a certain part of me doesn't want to have that. Oh, you're one of those men who shouldn't be playing video games and
Yes.
investing, and roll
Yeah.
your eyes. And so you're
Yeah.
kind of always, we get a little reluctant to be like, hey, do you play Hearthstone, or hey, do you play Overwatch? Because you get the, oh, you play video games? Aren't you a little old for that? You know, or
Yeah.
what
I
should you
don't
be
bring it up.
spending your time in, really? What?
I don't bring it up. I have a cousin who's really proud of the fact that I have a podcast and I play video games and I have this like hidden secret life that nobody knows about. So if we're like chatting at the school, he'll like show off to people and be like, "Did you know Eve has a podcast?" And inevitably they'll be like, "What's a podcast?" And I'm just like, I'm sorry if you don't know what that is, then there's no way this conversation is going anywhere.
Is that like one of those radio shows?
That's what I say. I say basically it's like a radio show. You just pick a subject that you're interested in, go on the podcast, and there's somebody who's got a show about it.
Yeah.
Like you can pick
Yeah.
and choose what you would like to listen to, what the topic is, and there's somebody who made a podcast about it out there. But
Pretty much pick a subject, yeah.
let's turn this bus around, as Rob used to say, and get back on track. Really exciting, interesting stuff to talk about this week that I
Yes,
was like, yes, something fun to talk about.
Yes. You hit it up. Go. You headed up the news this week.
So, Blizzard Post says, as Hearthstone expands and more patrons make their way to the tavern, it becomes increasingly important for us to revisit past designs to make sure we are building on the right foundation. Over the past 5 years of evolution and growth, we've learned a lot about what makes each of the classes in Hearthstone different, and what unique experiences players should have when playing each of these classes. Headed into our next update, we'd like to take this opportunity to outline our current class identity philosophy and to share our thoughts on where we see each class in the future. This is something they actually did quite often in World of Warcraft, revisiting each of the classes and their abilities and making sure that one class didn't like do all the things. Be able to heal, be able to do lots of damage, be able to tank, be able to like cover all the bases and just kind of be like a do everything class.
Right.
Because they felt like if they created a character like that, the more hardcore of the players would feel like they had to play that character. It was objectively the best character. And so they were shoehorned, if they wanted to do the best, to pick that class and that character and play this tree and play, this way. So they wanted to make everything equal but different, which is extremely hard in Hearthstone as well as in World of Warcraft. So What they're talking about in here, which made me excited, is if they can make every single class have strengths and weaknesses, then they can actually make stronger cards for those classes.
Right.
They can actually make like a really powerful priest card that does what priests do because they know that priest has a weakness that goes along with that. So it's not like they're going to become this juggernaut that just rolls over everybody because everyone knows, oh yeah, maybe they can do that really well, but this is where they're weak. So I'm going to
Sure.
be able to create something that fights against that rock, paper, scissors style. And I think that if they can actually do that, that's exciting. Because
Yeah.
it is fun to have powerful cards that do powerful things that make you feel powerful,
Yes.
as long as they don't do all the things really well.
Well, and that was sort of one of the things that why people get really angry at. We're getting angry at, say, let's say priest, being able to heal and be able to clear your board and be able to burst you down from nothing, and
Mind
this and
blast.
that. Mind blast. I mean, that's why you're getting our head over, so that's why they, moved it. They're going to be moving it to Hall of Fame. It makes a lot of sense. I hadn't really thought about the wanting to make it powerful. I always just kind of thought of it more from, I guess, a negative point of view. They just want to try and balance it,
Yeah.
But
And that's what I got excited when I was reading what they said was like, if we make them really weak and they can't do this very well, then you always know when you go into a match against Druid that Druid has a really hard time removing big chunky minions. Unless
Sure.
they put in like a neutral tech card, like Big Game Hunter or something, which weakens their deck, they have a hard time. So you can go into any Druid game going, well, if I just like buff this one up and protect it and save it, and like that's going to be there forever for the rest of the game. Because Druid can't deal with that. And so if you go into every single class game going, okay, I'm up against a hunter, but they don't do this very well, then no matter what deck you have or they have, you can still work from that position to go, well, at least I can try and work this way.
Do we want to? I feel like I'm gonna make macro comments over like the overarching stuff that I've seen in terms of what they want to make the strengths and weaknesses of the class. Do we want to look at some of the
Yeah, that's
strengths
fine.
and weaknesses, like some of the class breakdowns, as at least as Blizzard kind of sees it?
Yeah.
How do we want to paraphrase, or what do you think? Paraphrase or read it exact?
Well, I don't mind.
It doesn't take that long to read it.
Adhere to a class's fantasy. Define the things the class should excel at, where the class should struggle. You want to capture the emotion of the class through gameplay. So that could mean charging headfirst into battle as a warrior, wielding devastating magical spells as a mage, or plotting the perfect combination of moves as a rogue. Once we know what makes a class tick, we can make better decisions about what cards fit and empower that fantasy. So the thing that really frustrated me about Warlock in the previous meta was they had everything. They had
Sure.
card draw because they always do. But then all of a sudden they had a lot of self-heal. But then they also had like direct removal spells and board clear removal spells and ways to completely flood the board multiple times
And taunt.
and taunt. Like they had no weaknesses and they were really good at doing all the things. And nobody likes that feeling.
Sure. Because then if you're not playing Warlock, then you're losing.
Yes. And it kind of makes people feel like, well, I have to play the most powerful class. And then all you see on the ladder is Warlock.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. And you did see a lot of Warlock, I mean, incidentally.
Oh, yeah. It was everywhere. I mean, there were a lot of different kinds, but it was still a lot of Warlock. So they're going to break this down into strengths, limitations, and weaknesses. I'm not really seeing the difference between limitations and weaknesses.
Well, it sounds like limitations are they're going to, not so much limitations, but more like limit. They're going to put a little bit more limit on the types of cards. You know what I mean?
Okay, so they might have like some card draw, but it's
Yeah.
not going to be a strength and it's not going to be completely absent. It's going to be like
Right.
they're going to get a little bit of it.
Yeah, I think the weakness is like, yeah, this class doesn't do this. This class doesn't heal or something like that.
Like Hunter. Hunter shouldn't be able to heal.
Yeah, Hunter doesn't heal. But
So do you want to take like a
let's
class and
yeah, let's tick off the classes. It won't take us very long, but druid, they say they want druids to be attuned with nature. Druids are relying on magic, what massive beasts, swarms of woodland creatures. Their toolbox allows them the versatility to pivot from defense to aggression with, like, the choose one spells. However, they want them to be limited directly, like to be able to just clear minions, which is what Naturalize used to do, right?
right?
It just
So that makes sense as to why they got rid of that, right?
Yeah. So strengths, they want it to be mana generation, giant minions, minion swarms, card draw, beasts. Okay, that's sounds like what it is now. Weaknesses, destroying big minions, and board clear, which is exactly what it is now. So it sounds like they're tuning that one pretty quickly.
Is there anything out there right now that you would say signifies card draw?
Well, Wrath is a card draw kind of a thing. I think
Okay.
they need a little bit more card draw. I mean,
Ultimate Infestation
Nourish is
was
still a card.
an example in
It,
the past of like massive card draw.
Well, and I
So
think they
that
toned it down because they wanted Druid to take a back seat. It's not so much in Wild, but it's definitely a back seat in Standard because Druid is just so good. It did all the things for so long. You know what I mean? So
So mana generation, giant minions, minion swarms, card draw beasts, and then the weaknesses, destroying big minions and board clear. So
sure.
I think they're still going to have swipe.
Yeah. But Swipe doesn't. Swipe's sort of kind of a wimpy board clear. It can be great if there's a bunch of 1/1s, but
Yeah.
it doesn't do much more than that. It's a middle of the road card, I think, anymore, based on how the meta is shaping up.
Yeah. So you feel like it's okay for them to leave swipe for Druid.
I think so. It's a core card. I mean, and if they took it away, I don't know that it would affect Druid that much. So they're probably going to leave it alone, unless they're just trying to totally just hit the reset button on the class. But I don't think swipe is bad. I mean, a teeny bit of it would clear an early minion, or
Yeah.
an early wide board that might make the game seem a little unfair. So if you're playing I don't know, if you're playing like a
Token
paladin, he's got a
paladin.
token paladin, and you need to clear that board before it gets buffed again. Yeah, that's great, but it's not a very good late game card unless you're just trying to squeak out some damage or something. So
I
think it's
have
fine.
used it to do like the final 4 damage to face.
In which case you're playing the game well, and it wasn't swipe per se that just won the game for you. You know what I mean? It wasn't because Druid has all this reach and can just reach out and nail you from nothing.
Yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, 4 damage is not that big.
So it sounds like they and I think it's because Druid had so many nerfs, and so many cards tweaked or moved to Hall of Fame over the years that it seems like Druid is almost where they want it, or pretty darn close.
I think so. I honestly think that Druid's actually in a good spot. And if they sort of even out the other classes, it'll be in an even better spot. Not
Well, 'cause-
oppressive, not overpowered, because it has its weaknesses, but still pretty strong.
Well, because Token Druid's a good deck. It's just Token Druid is good. Its goodness is contingent on the meta. You know what I mean?
It would be even better with a little bit of card draw. So them saying that card draw is supposed to be a strength of Druid kind of to me hints at cards to come in the next expansion.
Yeah, cross our fingers. Well, and in theory, because Druid's on the quote unquote good guy side as a class, we'll probably see some more of that. So hopefully,
Right. So Hunter, my favorite class for a really long time. Use their wit, ferocity, and an army of beasts fighting alongside them to destroy their competition. Although they lack in defense, yes, extremely, their aggression allows them to push through before they need it. A well-timed secret or death rattle can help them gain clutch advantages against their opponents. Now, this is something new. Like, death rattle has not been exactly like a key Hunter mechanic until recently, I would say.
probably the last year or so.
But now they're kind of making it sound like this is going to be a thing moving forward.
Well, it seems to make a lot of sense based on the cards they've been printing. I think Cube Hunter kind of got that ball rolling. You know what I mean? And
They
I
do
think
have a
now
lot of class cards that like trigger death rattles, and so that seems to be them deliberately pushing them that way too. I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it's cool. I mean, a death rattle cards are really sticky, right? They do something for you, and if you're trying to constantly be aggressive, death rattle cards really allow you to do that, especially if they leave a minion behind or do something like that.
It makes sense. If you want to be aggressive enough to outlast at least until the mid range, you need to have sticky minions, and Death Rattle is sticky. So
Yep.
beasts, face damage, secrets, and Death Rattle.
Mm-hmm.
Their limitations are card draw and generation, board clear, and taunt. And their weakness is healing.
Naturally.
No heals.
Yeah.
So
That
they do
makes-
have some card draw, and they do have some card generation, some board clear, which is basically the hounds.
Yeah. Hounds
Or that secret that does 2 damage to everything.
yeah, explosive
they're
trap.
little.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
And
so
some
limited.
taunt.
You don't build it. But I guess the thing about the limitations is you're never going to build a deck around that type of thing
Right.
in Hunter.
Right.
It's more of a tech as much as anything.
Like if you do that 4 mana spell, sometimes you get the 4/4 bear, and that's a taunt.
Yep.
But it's like a 1 in 3 chance. So
Yeah. So, do we any further comments, or should we move on to Mage?
I agree with the feeling of Hunter as being aggressive. It fits really well with their hero power, and so I'm on board with that. The only thing that kind of scares me of them being a little more overpowered is the death rattle thing. So they're really going to have to double down on the weaknesses in order to keep death rattle from being oppressive, in my opinion.
Well, because correct me if I'm wrong, but Death Rattle has been probably one of the most strong mechanics in the game just forever, right?
Yeah, because you can't just use a board clear.
Yeah.
You have to do it again.
That's why warriors don't like. That's one of the reasons warriors don't like hunters. They have a hard time getting rid of their boards.
Sludge Belcher.
Sludge Belcher. Going back to Sludge Belcher.
Yeah. He was the
Yeah.
beginning of the end. The wind just closed the upstairs door. I have a
Whap.
ghost.
Calling the Atlantic Paranormal Society. Oh, okay.
So mages.
Mages have mastered the arcane arts and use their wide range of spells to take on even the most aggressive of opponents. Their defensive... What is that word? Cadre?
Cadre?
Cadre? What does that mean? Call me ignorant, but I don't know what that means.
It's like your toolkit, I believe.
Okay.
It's like your defensive tools. what you have available to you. I think it's French.
I like it. I'm going to put that in my toolbox. No pun intended. Their defensive cadre is limited. While a good mage usually has a useful tool to deal with any situation, a great mage conjures the right tool when they need it. So their strengths are spells, big and small, duh. Damage spells, duh. Secrets, of course, and board clear. Sounds like mage. Limitations, minions, swarms. Yeah, I can think of one deck that I've played in the last couple of years that involved a lot of minions, and that was like a magic carpet kind of mage that somebody had come up with. I don't even remember who came up with it, but it was kind of fun, but it wasn't good, because mage. And weaknesses are healing, taunt, and minion buffs. Yeah, those are all things mage just kind of doesn't do. Can you think of any instances when mage had really taunty minions? Or was like using had minion-based boards that were
Like
trying
their
to...
version of taunt is freezing everything.
Yeah.
Like instead of taunting, they just don't allow you to do anything by freezing all your stuff.
Yeah, you just don't get to play.
Yeah. So apparently it actually means framework.
Okay. Framework. Cadre. Is it pronounced
Their
cadre?
defensive framework is limited. Sure.
Sure. On Velen's Chosen,
works.
we learn vocabulary as well as how to play Hearthstone and etc. So, just saying.
So there was a lot of people on Twitter going, limitations, minion swarms, really? How about a whole bunch of giants right away? That seems pretty swarmy.
Yeah, I think the Blizzard's idea of minion swarms is sort of like smaller, dirtly minions. I don't know that giants
Tokens.
count, but they had to have. I mean, when Blizzard made Conjurers calling, not Conjurer's Calling. What's the spell that kills it and then summons another one of the same, summons 2 to replace it? Am I right? Is it Conjurer's Calling? Anyways, they had to have known that people were going to just try to find giants and just do that. I mean, it seems like the obvious play.
I muted myself while I was looking it up.
I thought you got
Twin
awful quiet
spell,
for a second
destroy
there.
a minion. Summon 2 minions of the same cost to replace it. Yeah, Conjurer's Calling.
Cool.
Yeah, minion swarming, it says limitations, so it's not like straight up weakness.
Yeah.
So they do have cards that
I mean, it's like the
spawn
only
other
one,
cards.
really. It's like the only one that really has
they've
been.
tried it in the past where they're like, every time you play a spell, get a minion of that cost, like a minion on the board, and its ability is whenever you play a spell, you get a minion of that cost, or just like a random 2-cost minion or whatever. They've done that before.
The Vex Crow, is that what the card that did it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. And I mean, kind of similarly, Mech Mage.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true. That's true. That was a long time ago.
So they've done it before where they kind of have abilities to make minions. So that's why I think it's under limitations, not weaknesses. They're never going to be able to do it as well as, say, Druid.
That's
But
true.
they can make minions. It's not, completely. But yeah, they have no way to heal except for Alexstrasza.
Yeah, really not. Really not. Well, they had that.
And no minion buff cards at all.
What was that arcane elemental that every time you cast the spell, it would give you armor for the armor?
Yep.
I don't remember what it was called. The Hearthstone card pool is now getting too big for me to remember everything that they make for it.
But that one is definitely getting rotated out.
Yeah.
So that one's going to go away. And I think moving forward, it's going to be the same as Hunter. Anything that can do a lot of damage straight to your face should be weak to healing.
Yeah, got to be the glass cannon.
Exactly.
You can't be an invincible cannon or people get mad. All right, what's next?
I would say, honestly, in strengths, they should have card draw.
Yeah, they do, though.
Spells, big and small, damage spells, secrets, board clear. Yeah, they should put card draw in there because in order for Mage to work well, they need card draw.
Mm-hmm.
So Paladin. Paladins are great champions who support their minions with buffs, healing, and divine shields. However, they are not afraid to get their hands dirty when the time comes. They're methodical, controlling the battlefield through debuffs and focused attacks instead of destructive spells. Strength and persistence are the keys to a paladin's victory. So strengths, minion swarms, minion buffs and debuffs. Make your attack 1, make your health 1.
Boo.
Healing, divine shield, and secrets. Limitations, cost reduction.
Cost reduction?
Making
Is that a
cheaper.
strength?
No, limitations.
No. I mean, but like, what classes really do that well? Unless you factor in like mana.
Reducing the cost of things in your hand.
Rogue kind of does that, but it was like with spells.
I mean, Emperor Thorzon.
Yeah, but that was a neutral card. That's a weird. I don't know if I understand that. I wonder what they exactly mean. What they're
Maybe
thinking
they
of.
mean that they will limitedly be able to do this because they can. They do have cards that are like switch a spell and a minion and then switch their costs.
Oh, okay. Like Prism.
Yeah.
Okay.
And their weaknesses, direct damage spells and destroying big minions. So they can make your big minion small by making it 1 attack or 1 health.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're going to get rid of that. Because Pyromancer and Equality and Consecrate.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting rid of any of those. That doesn't seem like it's.
Well, it says their weaknesses are direct damage spells, which makes sense, but also destroying big minions. And they can with Equality Consecrate.
Well, but direct damage spells, what about Holy Wrath? Shrivala Holy Wrath is a deck,
Which, if they want to make it, then they're going to have to get rid of that the same way that they're getting rid of Mind Blast.
Yeah. But I don't know
Except
that
for
that's an
Holy
issue,
Wrath
though.
is like a really specific workaround. Like it's kind of like Reno Jackson in that you have to build an entire deck around it.
To
But I
make it
guess the
work
same
that
could have
way.
been said for the Mind Blast Priest as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So we might see it go then.
Well,
Holy Wrath.
but they made Shirvala. Like Shirvala is a class only card. It's a paladin only card. So it's kind of like they
But
say it.
did they intend for Shirvala to work that way though?
How could
Because
you not?
Shirvala is the one that works with the identity of paladins casting a lot of spells, a lot of buffs, and making her cheaper. Like that was the way she was supposed to work. Not then put her back in your deck and then
But
pull it out.
it seems kind of I don't know. It seems kind of obvious. Like you. I mean, I say that sort of hindsight, but for a long time, Holy Wrath was a forgotten card. For a long time, where nobody really thought of it very
kept trying
much.
to use it with giants and
Right, but I would say the general player base wasn't.
yeah,
They weren't even thinking
they
about it. It
weren't
wasn't
trying to
even a
make
card
that
they care
work.
about. So I don't know.
It is a really weird card. If that is the class identity of Paladin,
Uh-huh.
its purpose is to do damage straight to your face in a massive amount and
Sure.
to risk and to build. Yeah, I think they need to get rid of it. If they're going to make it a weakness of Paladin, they need to get rid of that card. You're right.
Yeah, or just change the card. You could probably just edit it and make
change
it do
the way
something
works.
different.
Maybe
That'd be
maybe
cool.
you can only damage minions, and then it
Perhaps.
would not be worth using ever.
Right. All right, priests.
Into the ground.
So priests balance the holy light and shadow magic to defeat their opponents. They control a battle's outcome using powerful spells with situational applications. While not the most aggressive, they are able to generate, copy, and use combinations of cards to generate a powerful army. An army?
That's a really confusing description of priest. Like they're
Yes.
not really saying anything there.
Which, well, hang on a second, because then they're going to go down here and say, I mean, well, they don't talk about. Well, let's just read the strengths here. Strengths are
Okay.
healing, narrow but powerful spells, copying.
What does that even mean?
They do a very oddly specific thing, but it's powerful. But isn't that kind of the definition? Anyways, situational. Copying, single minion buffs, death rattle. Okay. Limitations: card draw.
Really? Because then
Really?
they're going to have to get rid of Northshire Cleric.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Northshire Cleric's a pretty strong card draw card. Weaknesses.
I mean, they did say limitations, but still. Northshire Cleric.
I don't know. Face damage and multi-minion buffs. Was Priest ever? I never thought of multi-minion buffs on Priest.
Right.
Can't think of a time. That's okay.
That's
It's
a
fine.
weakness. Like they can
That's fine.
buff up one creature a lot and make it like 25-25, but it's not like Druid where, you're buffing everything on the board with Force of Nature, Savage Roar kind of deal. So they're weak in that way where if they don't immediately attack with it, it can like get silenced or, removed, and then that's it.
Yeah.
It's gone. And they're getting rid of their face damage spells. But still, card draw. Like, does this mean a change coming down the pipe for Northshire Cleric?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, Northshire has been a staple for so long. I was really hoping that they would
really
do something like get rid of divine spirit,
Yeah, Inner Fire.
kind of stuff.
But
Inner
that
Fire.
seems to be part of their class identity. So I think Priest in this description is sounding to me like Rogue.
Yeah, sounds an odd. But you know what, though?
It's
Rogues
saying,
and
like,
priests
they
have
do
done that
stuff.
thing. They do stuff, and a lot of it involves stealing your stuff. Or as Rob used to say, steal your girl.
So basically, they're making them sound like epic spells, right? Like narrow but powerful spells,
Yeah.
situational spells are going to be kind of like Priest's wheelhouse.
Yeah, maybe that's just what it needs to be. But I think that's also one of the reasons why people have hated priests so much. Because like Inner Fire, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, just people hate
It
that.
feels so cheap.
Because if one minion sticks and they have those cards in their hand, you lose. That could be on turn 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing about this it's the same thing I feel as epic spells is either they're really, really good or they're really, really bad. So you have the potential for priests to be super awful because all of their stuff is powerful but situational. Or you have the ability to be like broken, like death rattle, resurrect a million times priest, which infuriates people.
Yeah, the resurrection thing is infuriating. Okay. All right. Let's go on to Rogue.
Rogues hide in the shadows, planning for the perfect time to strike. They may be sneaky and nimble, but they lack strong defenses and regeneration, forcing them to act quickly to incapacitate an opponent. Their innate ability to generate, draw, and burgle cards allows them to build up and execute on many synergies. So, strengths: combo cards, destroying individual minions, card draw, weapons, death rattle. Weaknesses: taunt, healing, board clear, multi-minion buffs.
Okay. I find it interesting they don't put anything down for limitations here. Because Rogue is not limited by anything.
So they're going to be able to destroy individual minions like, what was that amazing card that they lost? Vine? No, it wasn't Vine Cleaver. What was the one? Combo destroy a minion?
Yeah, it was Vine Cleaver. No, not Vine Cleaver. It was Vile Spine Slayer.
Vile Spine Slayer.
The 3/4.
Yeah, like that was an amazing rogue card.
Yes.
Very well designed, I thought.
Yeah, it never felt overpowered, but it was a card you played around because it was super good.
Yeah. Very strong, but well balanced, in my opinion. So they're going to be able to do that well, which I think is fine. Combo cards, obviously. Card draw, yeah. Weapons, yeah. Death rattle. So what makes them too overpowered?
Well, I just think the strength of individual cards has always been kind of the thing. I mean, if you think about the cards that have been nerfed recently, like the Lackey, the Miscreant, the Lackeys make them really overpowered. What's always made Rogue powerful is the cheap cost of cards, and the fact that they can do a lot of stuff in a turn because of that. And they can.
Card draw.
Yeah. Well, card draw has been mostly based around Gadgetzan Auctioneer. I'm going to be, and I would say card generation is what they've done a lot more of lately than just draw.
Which comes with it an inherent risk of whatever you're getting not working well with your synergy or, not being what you need at the time. So that balances that out a bit more than just like card draw.
Yeah.
Because you're getting cards you put in your deck, which are probably very strong because you put them there. But Burgle has the ability to be bad, which evens it out a bit more.
I mean, you want rogues to be able to burgle stuff, but maybe they're kind of putting this card draw as a strength, and maybe we're gonna see cards that do more of that so we don't have to revolve around playing solitaire with the Auctioneer. So who knows?
Yeah. So if they make their weaknesses very clear, then they can put in card draw and not have to worry about it. I mean, they do already have the one where it's like combo, draw a pirate and a weapon. Like that's card draw.
Yeah, that's true.
So they don't have taunt unless they use neutral minions. No healing unless neutral minions. Board clear. So that's why they got rid of Vanish. And no multi-minion buffs. It's all, you can buff up one single minion, but not an entire board.
Yeah. I mean, Cold Blood is a buff that buffs a minion. Yeah.
Yeah. Like people, I just want to say to everyone who's losing their minds about their specific favorite class and feeling like it's nerfed or whatever, if they actually do this, it means they can double down on the strengths. They can make your class even more powerful and more exciting because they know there's a weakness there to even it out. So, like, wait for that and be excited for that because that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping they're telling this all. There's got to be a reason they're releasing this now, because they're probably going to start giving us card dumps pretty soon for the next set because we're almost into July. So
But I feel like they've been working on this for a while. Like
Yes,
we're
they probably
finally
have
getting it all like thought out and written out and explained to us. But I think they've been working on this specifically for a while now.
Yeah, they've alluded to a lot of this stuff over the years, but they've never actually codified it like they have now.
Yeah, like we made hex more expensive because, these reasons, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of hex, shaman.
Shaman. So they say shamans wield the power of the elements along with their trusty totems. While they may not be able to generate resources as quickly as a mage, they are able to overload their mana crystals with lightning, allowing them to ramp up for a burst of power faster than other classes. Shamans are thus rewarded for planning a few turns ahead by tuning their mana curve. Shamans also have strong tools to adapt to many situations. Although they are not as versatile as druids choose one cards, they are able to extend their capabilities in ways other classes might not be able to. Their strengths are minion swarms, damage spells, totems, elementals, and murlocs. So they tend to hang around
Murlocs are
classes.
going to be a shaman thing?
Haven't they, though? They have been, haven't they?
Yes.
I mean,
But they
for
like
over a year
literally
now.
said now, like it's now a thing.
I wonder why. Like, is it just because shamans are tuned with nature and murlocs are kind of like World of Warcraft nature?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But Murlocs are like right on the edge of sentience. Is that pronounced properly?
Sentience?
Yeah.
Sentience? I think it's the same. It's probably fine.
Sentience.
Yeah, I think
Like
so.
they're not exactly beasts.
Right.
They have like a culture and they have a language. So they're not quite at the level of like you could play one in World of Warcraft, but they're definitely above the beasts.
They can think, I don't like that you're
Yeah.
doing that. I'm going to get you. I'm going to murgle my way
Exactly.
over to you with my sword, my murloc weapon.
And
Weaknesses.
it's funny because shaman are actually like very multi-talented in World of Warcraft too. So it fits the like being able to do damage, being able to heal, being able to taunt, like the 3 roles: damage dealer, healer, and tank. They can
Well,
do all 3.
it's interesting that they don't even talk about healing, even though shaman has been able to heal pretty decently, pretty consistently for all sets. They've had a card that's done a good amount of heal, or minions that do a good amount of healing for them.
Well, it's not in their weaknesses.
Yeah.
So,
But they didn't even comment on it. It's not even commented on.
yeah.
I find that interesting.
Maybe going forward, healing is going to be something that's in neutral cards a lot more than it's going to be in class-specific cards.
That'd probably be all right.
So minion swarms, damage spells, totems, elementals, and murlocs. It's interesting.
Yeah. That seems like that.
They're going to keep using overload as a way to kind of rein them in.
Yeah. Which is fine. All right. What's next?
Warlock.
Warlock.
Let's hear it.
You don't want to read it?
I'm afraid. What are they
Okay.
going to turn Warlock into?
All right. Sometimes sacrifices need to be made for power. When you get demons involved, this is often the case. The Warlock is comfortable with his bond and can manage all their resources, including their health, in order to defeat their opponent. Their inherent ability to draw cards with a sacrifice allows them to keep the power flowing. Strengths.
Look how many strengths. So
Powerful sacrifice effects. Card draw, minion swarms, disruption, demons. Weaknesses, face damage spells, and big healing. Big healing? Okay.
So they're going to have little healing, I guess.
I guess.
Because it's the sacrifice effects. So maybe like destroy a minion and heal for X.
Heal for X. Maybe. I mean, okay. But haven't they kind of done that already? Like, that's been sort of a, I don't know.
What does disruption mean?
You know, I'm not sure what they mean by that because disruption, just in my mind, disruption is counterspell. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. That's the first thing I think of. But that's because I'm a Magic player. So,
Yeah.
like, stopping you from doing what you want to do is disruption.
Uh-huh. Are they going to sort of introduce some new things that Warlock can do now that really they haven't been able to do?
Well, I mean, another way they've been able to disrupt is things like Defile.
Uh-huh. That's board
things
clear
like
though. It's really board clear more than anything.
yeah.
I mean,
But their demons always have powerful effects.
yeah, the demons are what really do a lot of stuff. And is there anything in World of Warcraft that where a warlock could just what would they do as a warlock character? Could they disrupt anything? Could they stop something from happening?
They have damage over time things. Like they have demons that they summon to fight you,
Sure.
and then they have what we call dots that they put on enemies, which are spells that like stay on an enemy and just continue to do damage on them over time.
Right.
So something like putting a card in your hand that unless you play it and get rid of it, it'll do 2 damage to you every turn.
Okay. Well, is it maybe something like was it Corrupting Mist, where
Yeah.
the minion kind of gets like cursed and then it's gonna just die next turn? You don't get a say so unless you silence it.
Like overwhelming. Power overwhelming.
Yeah. Power overwhelming. Disrupt your own minion after you punch him in the face. I'm gonna disrupt your face with my minion with 4/4 on it.
Yeah, I wonder what that means. Whether they'll give them a bit of a toolkit to like be reactionary.
I don't know.
I mean, they have Doom.
Yeah, Doom. All right.
So
Let's go to Warrior. What's up?
Warrior.
Go ahead.
Warriors thirst for the battlefield. Primarily a martial class, they incorporate armor, weapons, and minions to destroy their opponents. The minions who fight alongside each warrior tend to be bigger and stronger, and they employ rush and taunt to control the flow of battle. This is kind of the first time we've seen taunt be like a class-specific thing.
Sure.
Strengths: armor, weapons, taunt, destroying minions. Limitations: card draw and card generation. Oh, really? Because then you're going to have to get rid of
the
Dr.
bombs.
Boom.
The bombs.
Weaknesses: face damage spells, multi-minion buffs, and minion swarms.
They definitely don't have very many face damage spells, you know. What's the one that
they
they can do
usually
4 or
use
6
minions.
damage? It's what's that
Oh,
spell?
that's if your health is lower than
Yeah.
a certain amount, then you can do, yeah.
But that's like the only one. And it doesn't see play except in Pirate Warrior.
Yeah. That was way back in the day when they used that.
Yeah.
They were
Neutral.
practically like warlocks trying to get themselves really low so they can do like a massive amount of damage to you to finish you off.
Yeah.
Neutral cards allow classes to extend their strengths to reach a specific goal with their deck or to make up for some of the weaknesses. For example, a paladin can add neutral murlocs to help them round out their deck, or a hunter may use a neutral card that gives them a small amount of healing so they can stay in the fight longer. These cards are generally lower in power level, so a class can never completely overcome their weaknesses.
Bada boom. Which means neutral cards will be kind of wimpy forever.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. They can't make them too strong, otherwise you just auto-include it in your deck and completely negate your weakness.
Yeah.
As we work to define what each class should bring to the table, we found several cards that don't match our established class identities. We'll continue to adjust the basic and classic sets as needed, but for this update, we've decided to address the 2 cards Mind Blast and Vanish. And we talked about this already. They don't want Priest to have direct damage to face spells, so Mind Blast gotta go, and Rogue easy board clear, so Vanish gotta go.
Yeah. And the funny thing about Vanish is Vanish it really hasn't been used except in Mill Rogue and in like decks like Pogo Hopper where they want to like play the minion, put it right back in their hand right away so that they can have even bigger minions, or more of them. It's interesting that Vanish, it's just not been a common card. It just hasn't been seen a ton of play.
There were people who used it when Quest Rogue was out
Yeah.
in order to get things back into their hand, and then put them out like Wisps and things like that, out as 5/5s for 0 mana.
Well, and the irony about that is they're not using it to clear a board. They're just using it to reload their stuff to like trigger more to make combo pieces. So it's kind of like, I guess if I'm a developer, I'm thinking, it's really kind of clunky. Vanish is always clunky. Maybe we can, if that's what they're going to do anyways, that's what we want to do it. Why don't we just make more cards that do that? Or maybe not because they have Shadow Step and other things. So I don't know. Yeah.
So they're going to replace them with Radiance for the priest. It's a 1 mana spell, restore 5 health to your hero. Basically, help them do what they do well.
Uh-huh.
And Plaguebringer for rogue, 4 mana 3/3, battlecry, give a friendly minion poisonous. Leaning heavily on the poison rogue class identity.
Yeah.
So the way that these work, all players who have the old basic cards will automatically receive the new basic cards once the update goes live.
Mm-hmm.
If you have Wild unlocked, you'll keep Vanish and Mind Blast as Hall of Fame commons. If not, you'll receive an equivalent amount of dust for all golden and non-golden copies in your collection. Standard decks will have Vanish and Mind Blast replaced with Plaguebringer and Radiance.
So if you have Golden Vanish, do you get Golden Plaguebringer? I wonder. I mean, because not everybody has all the classes up to 60, in which case they wouldn't have.
Yeah, no,
Goldens.
because these are basics, so you can't dust them anyway.
Yeah. Probably can't craft them or dust them, can you?
No, you
So-
can't craft or dust them. So
Probably yes.
I imagine you would. Yeah.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Down.
Yeah.
I'm liking
It's
that.
good.
So, should we talk about the rest of the cards too? The other half of the news? So we're going to transition over to, they've been saying forever, yeah, we're going to, we'd like to replace some of the cards we've rotated out of Hall of Fame with some to update stuff in the Classic set. And they have. And there's some pretty nifty looking cards here. So, Eve, why don't you read the first one for us, and then we'll go on.
Righteousness is a paladin card, 5 mana spell. Give your minions divine shield. It's a rare. I think it's costed enough so that it's not, oh my gosh, this card is way too good.
Uh-huh.
But still, it's like, give all your minions divine shield. Just,
And then play Blood Knight.
oh my gosh.
It's a turn 8 massive Blood Knight. That's what it is. A turn 8, 2020? I don't know.
It's a very good class identity card. I mean, that's right on the nose. And I think it's costed to the point where a lot of pros would say it's too expensive. It probably won't see play.
Yeah.
But under the right conditions, I would wait and see, honestly, because giving all your minions divine shield is a really good ability.
Yeah. I mean,
Some are super
in
stupid.
Arena, it might be okay. Because Divine Shield goes a long way in Arena. It might be okay. I don't know. I mean, because you don't want to have this in your hand. It's your, dang, turn 5, I don't have a board, and this is the card I have in my hand. Oh, womp womp. But who knows? One more card, maybe, perhaps?
The art of the next one is so cool.
It is.
What's the name of He-Man's cat?
Battle Cat.
It's like a whole bunch of battle cats. They seriously have the armor from He-Man on them, and it looks amazing. So it's a druid card, Gift of the Wild. Give your minions +2/+2 and taunt at 8 mana, which is
That's steep.
huge.
Yeah.
Like huge.
I mean, it does something kind of big, but wouldn't you rather just play Cenarius? Because at least give it a body.
Like +2/+2. Yeah, it's too expensive.
Yeah, it's just really expensive.
Because what you want to do is give them +2/+2 and then hit face,
Right.
not +2/+2 and then wait until next turn.
Right.
So the taunt really doesn't matter.
Right.
But it's interesting.
It
The
might.
art is amazing.
I mean, it
love
might
it.
because if you have a bunch of weenies, little guys on the board, then 2/2 taunt, your opponent's not going to do much to you unless they can just clear your board. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I'm trying to think of this in the language of like building a deck and going on turn 8. What I really want to do is give my minions +2/+2 and taunt. And what
Yeah.
situation would create that being a good thing to do on turn 8?
Yeah, especially if you're thinking a tokeny board, because tokeny board doesn't want to, you know, what's that? Is it Call of the Wild? No, it's not Call of the Wild. What's the spell that puts a bunch of 2/2s on the board? That's the twin spell druid thing. What's that called? It's
It's 8 mana.
it's 8 mana. That's probably what you want to be doing on turn 8.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, not buffing those
Or 4
cards.
times, actually, if you've got both of them in your hand.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have both of them in your hand, feels bad, right? Like you're like, that's a lot of 8-cost cards to have in a token deck. I mean, it's strong, it's good, but to add like another 8-cost card to that type of a deck seems like it's a little bit a bridge
Like
too
they already
far.
have a lot of buff cards, and they're cheaper than this.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do multiple things in a turn instead of. Yeah. So I think it's really expensive, and it's great for the class identity and stuff, but it's not going to be. Because they have to make these cards good power level to be around for a long, long time. Siegebreaker is a warlock demon. 7 mana, 5/8. Taunt. Your other demons have +1 attack.
Could be good.
You think so?
Maybe. I mean, it's got taunt, so it can protect your board. So if you got a
Yep.
decent board, and you got a bunch of little imps on the board, and you want to protect them and buff them up, because it kind of does what Gift of the Wild does. We just talked about. It's not as expensive, but you get it on a stick. I don't know. I mean,
What's
seems
that wolf? Is it dire wolf?
Dire wolf. Yeah.
Give your other beasts 1 attack,
Yeah.
and that costs 1 mana.
Costs 1 mana. Yeah, but it does. It's not a 5/8 body with taunt. 5/8 would be pretty tricky to get through. You know what I mean? You couldn't clear it very easily. So if you had a matching board of, if you were playing like a swarm board or a board that goes wide, that card, and you're playing a board that goes wide, that card causes some issues. They can't one-for-one trade.
But if you're playing a deck where you have swarm cards that go wide, that's not a mid-range or late-game deck. That's an aggressive deck. That's not a go up to 7 mana at all.
Yeah.
Probably the highest mana cost card you have in your deck is 5.
Yeah. So that extra attack.
And it's
may
not,
just mean
I'm going to
nothing.
hold you off. It's supposed to be a closer card at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'd have to build a lot of demon synergy, and I just don't think that there is enough of that right now in Warlock.
I
'Cause
speak aggro, and this card does not speak aggro to me.
it's trying to trick you. It's tricking you, Eve. All right, next one is a 3 mana 3/2 legendary card. So they're going to put a new legendary in the set. Hype! It's Brightwing. Yay, Brightwing. But
What do you know about Brightwing, Grant?
Brightwing is a Blizzard made up character that is in Heroes of the Storm. That's all I know. Right? Am I right? Brightwing.
Everyone loves Brightwing.
Brightwing-
Like whenever people pick them in Heroes of the Storm, everyone's like, "Yes, someone picked Brightwing.
Right.
They're crazy. This is going to be an amazing game."
She was super meta for a long time. Like Brightwing, because she could teleport and heal and teleport across the map. So that was pretty sweet. Creepiest voice ever.
Really?
Yeah, just look up sound bites for Brightwing, and you'll think it's creepy. Oh, but anyway, so Brightwing's a dragon, and she reads Battlecry, add a random legendary minion to your hand. So you drop her, boom, you get a legendary minion. I know Slizzle was super excited because he's like the king of the pinata, right?
Right.
And
Weaponized
pinata. And so he was like, yes, an odd costed card that does the same thing. So he was really excited about that.
I love it because it's cheap and it's a dragon. Because a lot of times when we see dragons, they're like, super hefty and later game. So I love whenever you see a cheap dragon.
Well, and the thing is Brightwing is derived off the fairy dragon. So the fairy dragon card
Yes.
is what Brightwing is. It's that, but it's the Brightwing's the personification of a generic dragon. So
And then you get the random legendary minion, which, could be utter trash, but it's just fun.
I
And
might
it's
craft it
decently
just to have it.
costed and decently bodied, so why not? Oh yeah, that's the thing. So all of these cards are going to be going into the classic decks.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you get your Tavern Brawl classic pack,
You could pull them.
you could pull these, or you could just straight up craft them once the thing goes live. But yeah, now you're suddenly going to have a chance to get cards that you don't have again in classic packs.
So let's see here. What's the next one? Next one is the Arcane Devourer. Neutral card. Whenever you cast a spell, gain 2+2. It's an elemental. 8 cost. 5/5. So I kind of said the stats all over the map there, but no.
Yeah, 8 mana is a lot.
And I'm trying to think what this card is supposed to replace. You know what I mean? Like, what is it supposed to do? It's so high. I mean, it's got an elemental tag, which makes it better. But you, on turn 8, you play this, and then you cast a spell. I mean, best case scenario, you play it on turn 10 and play like a Frostbolt or something like that. So unless you can go
And
Arcane
still, it's only an 8 mana 7/7.
Well, I mean, okay, here's a situation where it could be really good. Late game, which is, it again, it's sort of going against the game plan, but late game, you're playing Mage. Turn 10, you play this, then you play Sorcerer's Apprentice and play all those 1-cost spells for 0 and have a big giant, 12/12, 14/14, something like that. But
But it doesn't have Rush, so the next turn it dies.
it's kind of like a terrible, terrible Edwin Van Cleef, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or remember that one that whenever you cast a spell, or no, if you have a secret at the end of the turn, it gets +2/+2, right?
Yeah, which those cards just haven't done well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What's the next one?
SI7 Infiltrator is a 4 mana 5/4 battlecry. Destroy a random enemy secret. So they gave us some more secret destruction, and it's like decently mannered and decently statted, so that if secrets become super oppressive, you could be like, I can get rid of one of them.
Or is it a tell that's saying there will be more secrets that could be oppressive in this card? Because this card is a good body for 4 cost. 4 cost 5/4s have been traditionally very good. And the fact that it does something when you cast it could make it really useful. So
I always liked having something, but that was back in the day when like Mage had Ice Block.
yeah.
And there's nothing really that's like, this is going to stop me from winning. I absolutely have to get this out of my way, and then I'll win, like Ice Block out there.
Yeah.
So,
But
it's going to be in Classic forever. So you're always going to have access to a Destroy a Secret minion.
Yeah. I kind of like this card. I think this card has a lot of application. Especially in Wild, I think it could be really useful. I mean, it only destroys a random one, so if they have, the secret tree up, then, well, yeah. But it gives you a chance, and it's not a bad statted card, so it has to be answered. You can't just leave it there. It's just going to punch you in the dome for 5.
Yeah.
And I like that it's very roguey. That's cool, too.
And they gave it a good health. 4 is removable.
Yeah.
It's not like a 4/5. It's a 5/4.
So I'll do the next card that's kind of crappy, and you can do the cool one, because you can tell us a little bit of lore about it. But the next card is a 7-cost, 4/4, 4 attack, 4 health, neutral epic minion. It's called Baron's Stable Hand. Battlecry, summon a random beast. So best case scenario, you summon King Crush, or what's the Grizzly, the 5/7 with Rush, or something decent like that. That could be good. Worst case scenario, you summon like a 1/1 or like a Direwolf or something like that. So
It's horribly statted. 7 mana for a 4/4.
Yeah, I wish the stats were a little higher on it, because
And the beast could be like a 1/1.
it's feast or famine, is what it is.
Yeah.
Probably more towards famine. So
It's got cute art, though.
it's kind of funny. So, all right, what's the last one, Eve?
High Inquisitor Whitemane, who is also a Heroes of the Storm character.
Yeah, they put her into Heroes of the Storm. Wasn't she in Warcraft lore, though?
Yep.
Like kind of important.
She's
in a lot of
Scarlet
ways.
Crusade.
Yeah, Scarlet Crusade.
So Scarlet Crusade are the people that like just went super hardcore against the undead.
Uh-huh.
They were like, we need to wipe them off the face of the earth. So they're like the blood enemies of Sylvanas and all of her people. It's like this very heavy, hardcore crusade that just wants to kill all undead. And they didn't realize it, but they actually had some demons on the inside pretending to be humans running the whole organization,
Oh, wow.
which is partially why they were so crazy. What I remember of High Inquisitor Whitemane was people trying to run Scarlet Monastery to get her hat.
What? Was
We
it like
just run it over and over and over again to kill her because it was a rare drop to get her hat. And people who love transmog,
Oh, right.
and she's got a cool staff too.
Yeah. They kind of nerfed her costume. Let's say it makes it a little more modest, as people say, because her costuming in other like art that I've seen is not that.
Very thigh high, yeah. It's usually like the tabard is kind of hanging down and covering essential bits, and then everything else is like thigh high exposed in the regular art. So
Yeah.
I appreciate what they've done in this one personally. Battle cry: summon all friendly minions that died this turn. So you trade with everything on the board, and then drop her down, and they all come back.
Sort of like what KT used to do. Or
Yes,
Kel'Thuzad,
but
sorry.
a bit more reasonable, so it's not over and over and over again.
Right. I like it, actually. I mean, it's a 7 cost 6/8. Good body. You know, you have to deal. It does a big thing. So if you had a good substantial board, and it's a really good card for parity, I think. If you're playing a game and you have to trade, your opponent has a good board and you have a good board and you have to trade it all out.
Then you drop her and get yours back. Yeah. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's going to see play.
I think people are going to tinker with it. People have said, I think they think it's a win more card. I think it's a parity card.
I think it's a way to turn the game around. You know?
Yeah.
Like instead of making the choice between trading and going face, I can trade, get rid of all your stuff, and then get my stuff back. But you have to kill your minions. Because sometimes in trading, you don't utterly destroy your own minions. But if you want them back at like full health and everything.
Right.
And then if you have death rattles, you get those and then get the minions back. So
Seems
yeah,
like a
it's
decent
funny.
card.
She reminds me of Sylvanas.
Yeah, definitely.
How Sylvanas was rotated to Hall of Fame for just being like too good.
Yeah,
Now
Sylvanas
she's
is good.
kind of like more reasonable.
Sylvanas in the current meta would be very, very, very good. I think.
Yeah, you can't kill her without losing something of yours.
All right. Well, let's get into our deck of the week this week. We're going to talk some Quest Tempo Mage. You're like, Quest, which means it's a wild deck. We haven't talked about wild decks too much in the past, or in the most recent shows, rather. But we are a quasi-wild podcast because Eve and I both play wild. I'm going to talk to you about KohaiHS's Quest Tempo Mage. Basically, it's 2 elemental evocations, which means you cast the spell for 0, and then you cast an elemental for 2 less than its original cost. 2 freezing potions, which is a 0 cost potion that just freezes the minion. 2 ice lances, old classic wild card that freezes a minion but does 4 damage if the minion's already frozen. Magic Trick, which is a current standard card that allows you to discover a mage spell for 3 or less. Mirror Image, which is the 2 little taunt guys for 0/2. Open the Waygate, which is the mage quest. Ray of Frost, which is the new 1 cost mage spell. That's a twin spell. 2 Frost Bolts. 2 Mana Cyclones. 2 Primordial Glyphs, which is still a good card in Wild. Research Project, which draws 2 cards for both you and your opponent. Sorcerer's Apprentice. Arcane Intellect. Flame Waker, which is a little card that every time you cast a spell, it does 2 pings randomly on the board to any enemy, minion, or face. Stargazer Luna, and Arcane Giants. Arcane Giants were 12 cost minions that every spell you cast during the game, it would discount them. So you could, if you cast enough spells that you could draw them, they'd be a 0 cost giant. The deck has a couple primary win cons that you want to go for. The main gist is play a lot of spells, throw down the giants. It's hopefully you've hit them in the face a decent amount. Throw down the giants, and then play open the way gate, the quest which you would have achieved by then, and then just punch them in the dome with the giants. And that's one of the ways to win. That's kind of the gist of the deck. The other way to do it is play solitaire with it and do get a mitt full of cards, Flame Waker down. And then put Sorcerer's Apprentice. And sometimes you don't even need to do that. Sorcerer's Apprentice and get all these 1-cost cards costing 0 and just Flame Waker the crap out of them. And go and ping them down and ping them down and ping them down and ping them down. Generally speaking, most games will go where you get a good amount of health burst down with the Flame Waker, or cleared their board, and you get them down about halfway, and then you put your giants down, do your quest, and then you just win. It's pretty straightforward in terms of what you're trying to go for, but getting there is pretty tricky. So we'll talk about the getting there a little bit. So in your mulligan, almost always the cards you're looking for, let's just assume you're keeping the quest, because that's kind of one of the big win cons. You're almost always looking for Mana Cyclone, Flame Waker, Elemental Evocation. Those are the ones you're looking for the most, more than anything else. And the reason for that is excuse me. The reason for that is if you have those cards, you're going to get all the cheap 1-cost, 0-cost cards. You're going to get those. You're just going to draw into those almost always. And Sorcerer's Apprentice is an okay keep too if you have the other ones or some combination of them, because what you don't want is to play all your 0-cost, 1-cost spells and not have Mana Cyclone so you can get all the new spells, because in order to get the quest to trigger, you need the new spells that it gives you that didn't start in your hand or your deck, or that didn't start in your deck, which is the condition for it. So it really stinks to have to try and clear a board, like if you're playing a paladin and you have to go Flame Waker and just dump all your freezing and all your 1-cost, cheap cost spells and then have nothing to replace it with. So really, the most important cards are Mana Cyclone's top priority, and then Elemental Evocation to kind of tandem that, or at least maybe Flame Waker and then Mana Cyclone, and then you just play it a little bit later. You play a little bit behind. The deck has a lot of potential to come back. Like you can play a wide board like a Shaman board. I've played Shaman boards where they get a big board, and then I just Flame Waker down every single minion, and then I'll get a cheap spell off a glyph, a primordial glyph, and clear their board, and they can't recover it because unless they can deal with that Flame Waker right away, they just can't come back. So it has potential to beat a lot of different boards, but you kind of have it seems like you have to be kind of having a good opening draw, because if you don't get the Cyclone or Flame Waker, it can just feel like you get to do nothing. You definitely don't want a mitt full of spells starting out, because, well, it just feels bad, and you can only freeze enemies for so long before they just start destroying you and build a bigger and even bigger board that you can't come back from. So that's basically the deck in a nutshell. But if you're looking to play some WoW and you're looking to play something that's kind of fun, I'd highly recommend this deck. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've pretty much climbed from, I think, 7 to 5 with it in Wild. But it's a really good time. Eve, do you have any questions about this deck?
How is it different from kind of like earlier iterations of this?
Of Tempo Mage or Quest Mage?
Of Quest Mage.
Well, Quest Mage used to do the thing where they would just draw through their whole deck and then put down Sorcerer's Apprentices and then put Molten Reflection on it and just burst, and then play Uncle Tony or Antonidas and then just burst you down with fireballs until you were dead, no matter how much health or armor you had. Mm-hmm. So this is a little bit more skill intensive in the sense of you have to kind of think about what cards can I get away with playing to survive so that I have enough cards to generate cards off the Cyclone. Because almost always do you have to freeze a minion to stop them from hitting you in the dome, or try to freeze a couple minions, or try to see, okay, well, what can I generate off a Primordial Glyph, and when do I drop the Flame Waker? And it's very matchup dependent. You have to know your matchups pretty well. So if you play a lot of Wild...
Which is pretty difficult in Wild.
It is difficult in Wild, but you can make assumptions. Like if you're playing a shaman, likely you'll be playing a Murloc shaman or a shaman that goes wide, like an even shaman or a Murloc shaman. Those are the most common things. If you're playing paladin, you can pretty much bet it's odd paladin or or a variation of mech paladin. If it's mage, it's hard to know with mage. It could be Reno mage, it could be any kind of thing. Priest, it's almost always big priest. But you can burst them down, like you can get them down fast. But the games that I lost were the games that I just couldn't pull a Mana Cyclone. I mean, there were games where I couldn't get the Mana Cyclone until it was the last 5 cards, both of them. And that's very frustrating when you draw all your pieces except the one you need. Because the Mana Cyclones are your chief way of getting cards you didn't start in your deck. I mean, of course, Primordial Glyphs generate those, Magic Trick generates those, and Ray of Frost generates those, but that's not enough to trigger. Unless you just have them one right after the other, it's not enough to really get the quest out in a timely manner. So, generally speaking, you just use those. You want to use those to get the cheap spells to get the Flamewrecker online. Stall your opponent's board with Ice Lances and Ray of Frost and things like that. And a lot of times you would generate Frost Novas and sometimes Blizzards and just stall them out. You can swing games and you can win games you have no business winning. And that's very different than the old Quest Mage where it was like, all right, just do nothing, draw, do nothing. Okay, Sorcerer's Apprentices, Uncle Tony, you lose, So that's the deck. So any other questions? Any thoughts?
No, it sounds very familiar.
Well, I really liked Tempo Mage back in the day. And this is kind of like a really satisfying way to like just blitz your opponent with Flamewaker pings, and with kind of like the added bonus of like, if you do it enough and you get a good enough like solitaire kind of cycle system going, next thing you know you have Arcane Giants and you're great. The only thing I've wondered about this deck is if it needs a Conjurer's Calling or not. But if you cycle enough cards and you can do 3 or 4 or 5 cards off the Cyclone, a lot of times you do get a Conjurer's Calling. You can also pull. You can also
have another win con.
Then you can also pull it off a Magic Trick, because that's a 3-cost card. So, or the spells you get are 3-cost. So it's
so you don't really need to put it in your deck if you're going to be able to have multiple other ways of generating it.
Not usually. I think this deck is fairly high skill cap. I don't think just anybody can play it. You have to kind of know how to play Tempo Mage a little bit, but it is very fun to play. And it's very infuriating to play against, especially if the opponent is able to cycle through, because they'll play it, in a turn you'll play 7 or 8 cards, and then they get a mitt full of cards again. You don't know what they have now. So like, well, what are they going to do? They have like a mitt full of ice blocks, or they have a bunch of Frost Novas, and they have torches, or what? Who knows? Because there's a lot of cards in Wild that can just go straight face that people forget about. So it's fun.
Yeah, much more than in Standard.
Yeah. So I'd recommend it. If you have any questions about specific things about playing it, maybe in matchups, just shoot me a note and I'll try to answer it as best you can. I've been playing it most of the week. It's been pretty fun. So
yeah, generating card decks are things that keep things fresh.
Yep.
So it's like every game's different. So that's the good thing about it.
That's why one of the reasons why I like playing Rogue, and that's one of the reasons why I like this deck. So, anyways, all right. Well, that about does it.
Yeah, I think it was good. We talked a lot about a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. Sure did.
Covered a lot of different things.
If
I'm so excited about the whole class identity thing. I want that to work so bad.
So, and there was a little teaser, because we didn't really mention it. There was a little teaser of Togwaggle sneaking into Hagatha's room by the looks of it, and he starts peering under her magical deck, and he keeps...
Not Hagatha, the priest one.
Yeah, Hagatha, the fortune teller. Oh, not Hagatha. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're right. It was
the shaman.
Lazul, right? Madame Lazul. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. You're right.
Madame Lazul.
It must be late or something. Yeah, you're right. Madame Lazul's card deck, and he kept flipping it over, and like this epic music was coming up in like bright golden light, and Togwaggle kept like pushing it down and peeking under it again, and it was the League of Explorers music. So dun dun dun, we were right.
And what did he even actually say? Uh-oh.
Yeah, he had a look of consternation on his face, that's for sure. So
it's so him that he's just like, we've already stolen Dalaran, and now I need to like sneak around my own like evil partner's room and see what I can steal from her. Like, why is he in there anyway? What is he doing? But yeah, I was actually on Twitter the second that they posted it, and I have like notifications for Hearthstone. So it's like, Hearthstone just tweeted out a new tweet. So I click on it and I was like, oh, what's this? And the music was really familiar to me, but I couldn't immediately put my finger on it. And so underneath I put, is this the grand tournament music? Because in my head, I'm thinking Dalaran's going to be about the defenders and it's going to be like all, paladins and the good guys and stuff. So it was saying to me the grand tournament music. And then like a whole bunch of people underneath are like, it's League of Explorers.
Yeah. Well, we talked last week on the show how it would make sense, though, because in the Dalaran heist, like the solo content, you steal Dalaran. You steal the whole floating island. Because Dr. Boom attaches the rockets on. Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah. Spoilers.
But then, so yeah, of course. So they're going to bring the island somewhere, and what better than to hire the League of Explorers to go discover where it went,
Yeah, it sounds very convincing. And especially since it's the League of Evil and the League of Explorers. Which, begs the question, are they going to bring back all the characters?
And what did they do if they went, when they bring them back?
And then give them legendary cards.
A third Elise Starseeker.
Right?
Who knows? And I wonder what they'll do.
Is Reno Jackson coming back?
Wouldn't that be crazy if they decided to just like bring the cards back out a while, just like pull them out and just see what happens? I mean, it could be busted and awful, but it could also be exciting and cool. Who knows?
But think about it. Bran Bronzebeard, Sir Finley
Mergleton.
Henry, Sir Finley Mergleton, Reno Jackson, Elise Starseeker, and those abilities. Like, I mean, Bran Bronzebeard would be fine, right?
It could be, or maybe just a new sect of the League of Explorers that we just don't know. Like, there's got to be more members now, right? Perhaps.
No, that they do a call out because they did a call out to all of the old villains. They're going to do a call out to all of the
you have a
people
point there.
that, like old Hearthstone people who've been around since League of Explorers, recognize Hearthstone characters. That's such a theme.
That's true.
Of like, they may never have played World of Warcraft, but they remember Hearthstone lore, so they know who Elise is and Bran Bronzebeard, separate from World of Warcraft. So I think it's 100% what they're going to do, and they're going to make new legendary cards for each one of them.
Either way, just count me in as here, take my money, because I want to play that. I want to know what it is. So,
which also means, Grant, that they're going to have to establish them each as a class. So Bran Bronzebeard Warrior? Reno Jackson?
Maybe. Well, I guess
Paladin?
Oh, yeah.
Sir Finley Mergleton Shaman? No, wait, Shaman was a bad guy. Who are the good ones left? Druid, Paladin,
Hunter.
Warrior. No, wait, Warrior was Boom.
Boom. So it's going to be, well, they did 4, so it'd have to be 5? Or is it 4? Hunter, Paladin, Mage, Druid are the 4.
Okay, Hunter, Paladin, Mage, Druid.
Right.
So Bran could be a hunter. Mergleton could be, I don't know.
That's hard. It's hard because
Elise could be a mage.
I mean, Elise would be my guess for Mage.
Reno could be.
Reno is the hunter.
A paladin?
Paladin.
This is difficult.
And into the weeds we go.
Yep. It's going to be interesting.
Either way, count us excited.
Listeners, please tell us which one you think matches up with the proper class, if that's exactly where they're going. The League of Explorers.
Yeah, what do you think, listeners? Do we need to have another Discord channel for that? Who knows? All right.
I'm here for Elise being a paladin, though. That could be cool.
I'm going to go Mage for Elise. That's what I think. Mage.
Yeah, that could fit too.
So, okay, well, if you would like to find all things and anything related to Velen's Chosen, just head on over to velenschosen.com. You can connect with us via Twitter, Discord, Patreon, etc. If you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/Velen's Chosen Podcast. We really appreciate any and all support. It really helps us pay our bills at the end of the year, month, depending on what it is we're paying. Keeps us in the know, all that stuff. If there's things that I've been thinking about this for a while, Eve, but like if somebody said, I would like to support your show if you did X thing or offered X thing, I'd be all ears to hear about that, what it is you're interested in. If you want, before I go on, big shout out, thanks to all of our patrons, especially Jamie S. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You help us keep the lights on, and we're very grateful for it. If you want to find me, you can find me at WatchmanHS on Twitter and on BattleNet at Watchman #1140. Eve, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at LoreMasterEve. Yeah, I'm working on my next episode for Knights of Lore. Has to do with Destiny lore, so I'm excited about working on that. And also maybe looking into a couple of different things about Hearthstone, some new cards that have been revealed and things like that. I think there was something people were asking about in the Discord. I'm going to have to go back and look at it about more information. Maybe it was Dalaran.
Hope so.
And of course, we have White Mane.
Yeah, White Mane, yeah. Well, you talked about White Mane in one of the Lich King lore moments, didn't you?
Yeah, because she comes from the Scarlet Crusade. Yeah. I touched on that.
Shout out to SC2 Forever, by the way, for an awesome show last week. And also for letting us know that an announcement of an announcement coming Monday. So stay tuned. All right, Eve, sign us off.
Not all who wander are lost. Have a good week.
Take care, everyone.
I foresaw this.
Did I miss it?